Hi, Edmond here again. And in this tutorial, we're going to be looking at how to create a module. Yeah. So in my last video tutorial, I explained how you could set up a dev environment, be it you want to contribute back to DevLess or you want to develop a module, how to set up your dev environment. I walk through the whole process. Now, this tutorial will depend on that. So if you've not watched it, I would strongly recommend you go ahead and then check it out before coming back to the module creation tutorial. So what we are going to be doing is creating a simple module, a calculator module basically. So I'll go ahead and then name my module calculator, give it a description, say simple calculator. I'll go ahead and then save this. So what's happening is to create a module, you need to begin. You start the whole process by creating a service, and the reason is this: services services can form many things. Services you can mold a service to become something more reusable among multiple applications, irrespective of the use of the application. Now that kind of service qualifies to be a module. In the case where you create a service where it's just usable within a particular application and it remains a service until you extend its inner abilities, it remains a service. So here normally a service has you can add a couple of tables to your service, you can write rules if you need them, and even connect to remote databases if you have to. But then there are other parts of a service that you might not see, or you might not even need, through the lifetime of your application. You might not need them, but developing a module, these components are parts you might consider. So let me show you. So this is the source code of my DevLess framework, the one on top of which I'm creating, on top of which this instance is running. So if I navigate to service views, okay, let's take this stepwise. Okay, let me do this from the terminal, right? Let me zoom in into this and clear the screen. So now if I cd into resources, views, service views, service views, right? And then I list out the directory. You see, for all the services I have on my instance, each and every one has a folder is created on creating every new service within the the service views folder under resources. Now let's go ahead and check what's the content of these folders. So that would be resources, views, and then service views. So here, let me open up the calculator folder. So now here you see I have two main files and then one folder, one empty folder. So now what's happening here? Let's go ahead and then inspect what we have in the index.php. So here it's a simple HTML page, right? And it has a couple of scripts in here. Wouldn't concern myself much with what it does now. I'll explain what it does later. But most interestingly is the action class. So now what's the action class? So every service you create has a class pre-created within it, and these classes can be accessed within other services or even from the front end based on the privacy configuration you place on this. So let me go ahead and show you something else. Let's say I copy my connection details, put it in a sample front end page, right? Now let's go ahead and then render this in our browser. I'll go ahead and open up the console. There. Okay, so now since we have the SDK in here, it means I can call on the JavaScript side of things. So I will go like SDK call, and then I can call on the calculator, right? And then now watch here. So what I'm trying to call now is methods within this action class. So here I'm calling on the calculator class, and I'm trying to reach one of these methods. So let's go ahead and then try the sample public method. So sample public method, and if it were taking parameters, I would pass them in here, right? But in this case, this method is taking no parameters. Then next, I'll add a callback function. So the log and then response. Okay, let's see what we have. So once this executes successfully, you see this, it tells me it got the RPC response successfully. I open up my payload and then I see public hello here. Now let's see what's happening. So once I call on this method, the results within this method is returned back to me, right? And the only way the JavaScript SDK is communicating with this action class is through the RPC protocol. You can look it up. It's basically just a way for clients or other services to call on classes or methods or functionalities from other apps directly. So what is the use case for this, right? Now, if you look closely up here, you realize this is a PHP class. It means I can write any functionality I have in here, and then I can be able to access this straight from my front end. Now think about that. So that means if I have extra functionalities, the moment I add an extra method to this class, I can be able to access this from my front end. Well, what if I have special needs in terms of security? I do not want anybody being able to call on any method. Just imagine you have a method for sending out emails. You might not want everyone to be able to do this. Or let's even say you have special data that logged in users should be the only ones who can access. So once you create your own method, you can add your own method, sure, over here. Once you add your own method, you need to add the access control. You need to set your access control. In this case, for this method, it's set to protected. And what protected means is you need to be logged in to be able to access this particular method. So let's go ahead and try accessing it from the public domain space. So I'll change this to sample protect, and straight up you see it says sorry, user is not authenticated, try logging in. So it means I need to be logged in to be able to access such a method. What if, and then for private, it means I can't even access this from the outside world at all. So let's go ahead and add one custom method real quick. I'm creating, let's say, public function sum. So we want to sum up two numbers. Let's say A and let's say B, and then when it takes in this, it returns A plus B. Right? Okay. Now let's see what happens when we try to call on this method. So we pass in sum here, and then we pass 1 and then 4. So you see here, it says, sorry, there's no such method, or method is set to private or protected. What this means is I can't access, although I have this method here, I still can't access this from the client. And the reason is, you need to, if you want your method to be accessible from the outside world, you need to decorate it with an SS layer, right? So what I'll do is I'll quickly add this here, and then ACL public, and then close this off. Okay, so let's try it one more time, and boom, we got our response, and it says the result is 5. Good. So yeah, 1 plus 4 is 5. So there you see, I've been able to add some functionality to my new service, right? And I can extend it in multiple ways. One last thing, let's look at one last thing. Let's say I have my inventory service here, right? And I wanted to be able to access functionalities from the calculator service. What I could do is I could call on the calculator service using the run command and say calculator, and then call on the sum method. So just like we call it in the front end, it's the same process, right? Nothing new. So 5, and then I'll store the result as sum, and then let's say I'll stop and output. Come on, output status code. I'll bring this down here. Status code message calculated, and then our sum. So this goes here. Good. Cool. So I'll go ahead and then save this and let's attempt a query. Stop and output doesn't exist, so they should be there. Yeah. Alright. So good. I'll go ahead and then open up the API console and then let's try. So this should be inventory, right? So let's try querying the products table. Let's see what we get, because the method we place this whole action on the before querying. So this should happen before a query, any query happens. So I'll go ahead and then query, and then you see the calculation happened and it gave me 6. So it's still calling on this method here, but just through another service. So this is one way you can interconnect your services and then use functionalities between them. So maybe it could be when a new contact comes in, call on the email service and then send out an email. You can interconnect multiple services and then have multiple functionalities within your app. Now, one last thing I would like to show you is how to create a miniature kind of admin on your service. For example, let me show you a service real quick. So let's go ahead and then install Notify. Alright, so now with Notify installed, let's come back here real quick and then open up the docs. Click on the docs UI here, and then you see it opens a user interface, a simple clean user interface with which I can configure my Notify service. So basically Notify allows me to send out SMSs, emails, and then push notifications right out of the box using Twilio, SendGrid, and then Pusher. So what's happening here is the creator of this service, PHP Code, created a simple mini user interface for this particular service. So if I quickly move to Notify, you see I have a couple of blade templates here. So each and every one here. So for example, Pusher, this Pusher page. So you can see from the URL, it opens up push. And this push maps to push.blade.php, so I can create multiple add files. Once I append the .blade.php, it's available over here, and then I can access it. So to create the simple user interface for your app, all you need to do is add multiple templates, the .blade templates, and then now you can hook them all up into your navbar. So for example, to create the navigation to navigate to push, all you need to do is add dv navigate and then the payload, which is preset. It just contains everything to identify the service, and then you add the leading name for each blade template, and then you can be able to access this from the outside. So the list of all the helper methods for your views it's right in the documentation, so you can view them all. So there's DV assets as well, which allows you to be able to pull out scripts from your assets folder, this assets folder right here. So for example, it's going to be able to it's going to go into JS and then pull out your jQuery file for you. So you don't need to provide absolute path or anything. It's directly available to you right within you can just use DV assets and access this right within your front-end application. Also, lastly, I'd like to mention, by default, every service comes with its own view. I think we've been logged out. Let's see. Yeah. So every service comes with its own view. So a default view, sorry. So by default, once you create a view, you get you have an index page here which contains some default view components already. So for example, the view component that is usually available, it's one that documents all the methods you have in your action class. So you see, once you add a sum method, it's auto documented. So if I had much more description in my doc string, I would have had more showing up here. So all of this has been pulled from the doc string on top of the methods. So yeah, basically, in a nutshell, that's it for how to create modules. One last thing though, so once you have your module ready and you want it to be hosted on DevLess Service Hub, where people can discover and find your service and then install and then use them within their app, you can share this by heading to migration and then export your service. Select, say, the calculator service, and go ahead and then export this. Great. So once you have your service exported, you can host it anywhere, but would advise you host this on a code, a project hosting platform like GitHub, so that we know it will always be available. But once you have it hosted there, you can head over to our repo, specifically and look for the service hub. So the service hub is basically a repo containing a JSON string of all the services we have available. So what you need to do is clone this this service hub JSON, and then append details about your newly created service, and then send in a pull request. Once we review this and we are satisfied, we'll merge this with the main service hub JSON, and then automatically your service will be available on the service hub. So yeah, in the nutshell, that's how you create a service and then share it with the rest of the world. I hope this video was helpful. I'll see you in other video tutorials. Thank you.